All right, so this is a bit different. I guess I got this whole room done just in time, didn't I? Today we're gonna talk about a video, very old school style, me and my home office deal. When I was putting together this office, one of the things that I had to make a decision on was obviously gonna be peripherals. And the problem was, in the past, I'd always taken like a dining room table or something like that and turned it into a desk because it's giant, it has a massive amount of space. I could use it for all sorts of activities and stuff rather than just being a desk. And so I would drill a hole in there and then pass cables through. But the problem is, like anyone else, I like to throw my feet up on the desk and I like to just kind of lean back with my keyboard in my lap. And I got tired of dealing with pulling a cord out and then trying to stuff it back in there. And so I took a chance. I took a chance on a recommendation of a very expensive Logitech keyboard. And much to my surprise, when I did this particular video about this space, I thought people were gonna ask a lot about my Shure SM7B mic. I thought people were gonna ask about my monolith amplifier, about my Hi-Fi headphones and that sort of stuff. But no, the most common question I got over and over and over was tell us about the G915 and whether or not it's worth it. So today I'm gonna give you a very subjective joyride into my thoughts on the Logitech G915. Okay. Ooh, it's dusty already. Ooh. Look at all that human skin. So this is the Logitech G915. I assume you can see it on camera. I can't see the monitor. I did an audio test. The audio seemed okay. Hopefully this doesn't end up all being a good practice run for this video. The Logitech G915 came out at the end of 2019. I bought this on the recommendation of a good friend of mine who has it. And I got to test it once at his apartment, but to be honest, I couldn't remember much about my feelings about it. I was more interested in what it was like gaming on the C9, the LG C9 TV, which is the same TV that I put here in this space because of its future G-Sync compatibilities, its future-proofed HDMI, its reduced input lag, its extremely fast color, or extremely fast gray to gray, black to black, all that sort of stuff because of obviously being OLED. I've had wireless keyboards in the past. And the problem with them has been twofold. One, input lag. Bluetooth is slow, and Bluetooth will always be slow. But as wireless technologies have kind of improved, you have the Slipstream from Corsair. Logitech is using what they call their Lightspeed. And so it gives you a very fast connection, albeit over a very short distance. So the other wireless peripheral I'm using here is the Wireless Pro gaming mouse. A little bit smaller than I'm used to, a lot lighter than I'm used to. But I kind of bought them as a pair. They're both Lightspeed. This isn't about the mouse, but I can tell you right now the mouse has already been proven. A lot of people have done reviews of the mouse. I think even Hardware Canucks has talked about the mouse. But what I really liked about this, and it's gonna seem very superficial, is the fact that it's brushed metal on the top. It's real brushed metal, which fits the aesthetic of this build perfectly, specifically Nebula, who is also brushed metal. But in terms of a wireless keyboard, it is mechanical, it is RGB, it has various different mode buttons, or M buttons here, that you can set up different profiles. It's got a gamer profile, it can connect to Bluetooth as well as being Slipstream, so I can use it to connect to any of my laptops, you can use it to connect to tablets, so it's got multifunctionality there. When it comes to the fact that it's got a 10 key, I personally like a 10 key. I can type very fast on a 10 key when it comes to number input, and so I prefer a 10 key or full-size keyboard. I don't think they make a 10 keyless version, but even if they did, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy an 80% or 60%. I like full-size keyboards. But it's got the typical things that you would expect from a Logitech keyboard. You've got the G keys right here. Other than that, there's not a whole lot really going on here. On the back, you've got some fold-down feet that also have giant rubber pads on there so they won't slide around. As you can see, I use a very cheap, inexpensive game mat right here for my mouse pad / keyboard so it doesn't slide around anyway. But it's got a very large battery in there. You can obviously hook it up via micro USB if you want it to be a wired keyboard. That's obviously how you charge it. We're gonna talk about a few things today. We're gonna talk about the build quality. We're gonna talk about the key switch types, the sound. We'll do a little bit of a typing test. We'll set up kind of like as if we were doing a live stream so you guys can hear what the click would sound like to your audience. And more importantly, we're gonna talk about some things I don't like about it and whether or not it's worth it. Now in terms of construction, it is mechanical keycap, or key, but it is not a standard keycap. It uses, I can't remember what they call it, but it is their own keycap. It is a short key, which is something that I actually really love about this keyboard. One of the things I don't like about cherry switches is the fact that the keycaps are so tall, which is fine if they're recessed into some sort of a bezel, which is very similar to how they were back in the 80s. when mechanical keyboards were the only thing that were around. Now we look at mechanical keyboards as being a bit of a luxury. And so it's one of those things that, like, it was the only way a keyboard was made back in the day, and then obviously the progression of PCBs and then membrane switches and all that sort of stuff. Now we're back to mechanical as being a bit of a luxury deal. This key is obviously what they call clicky. As you can hear, it's very clicky. If you kind of mash it, it can get pretty loud. But it's got that tactile hump as well as the click. Now you can get it in linear switch as well. I think you can also get it with a hump without the click. So very similar to Cherry, but it's whatever Logitech is calling their keycap. When it comes to the throw though, it's about the typical throw that you would expect for a mechanical key. Which to me is perfect for typing. When it comes to typing, I'm not the fastest typer. I mean, usually I can top out about 105, 110 words per minute at my fastest, but I can tell you right now that on this keyboard I can type. Phil has seen me go back and forth from different keyboards and just completely obliterate my own typing ability in terms of failure. But I can type on this, and I can type quickly and comfortably. When it comes to the build construction though, there's very little creak. I'm twisting it right now. Oh, I'm almost dropping it. It doesn't feel like it's gonna bend. You could definitely club an intruder with this if you wanted. You'd probably send keycaps flying everywhere. So I feel like the quality is there in terms of the build quality given its price. Now, when it comes to the RGB, this is all controlled via their own app. Now, wireless keyboard with RGB, with all the different modes and stuff, I have it set to static blue without it doing all kinds of different modes. It does go to sleep quite often, not when it comes to button press, but the lighting. If it sits idle without moving, I don't know if it has an accelerometer, but picking it up keeps it on too. Not just pushing the button, but actually moving it around will turn it back on. But the lighting I have set to static a little bit for battery life. But when it comes to battery life on this guy, I'm really impressed. I am now on day 5 of this charge. And if I actually look at the app, because I'm kind of curious now, it just uses the Logitech G Hub. I mean, software is what it is. People are gonna love it, people are gonna hate it. I'm at 63% on this keyboard battery. I do not turn it off at night, although it does have a power switch right here. And it just sits here. But the thing is, if it doesn't detect any input or any movement, it does go to sleep, but it wakes up extremely fast. So if I come in here and I turn on the computer, although turning on the computer does wake up the dongle, which will wake up the keyboard, but when it comes to going to the bathroom or something and you come back and the lights are off, pushing a button will immediately start typing, but the lights do take a second or two to turn back on. But day 5 now, without a charge, it's at 63%. Same on the mouse if you're curious. The mouse is at 38% and it's not been plugged in for the same amount of time. So this is the Logitech G Hub. This is where all your Logitech devices that are compatible with this software will show up. Obviously I've got my mouse and my keyboard. We don't care about the mouse, we care about the keyboard. Now the audio setup that you're hearing me on, which is jarringly better than what you were just hearing me talk on my video, is studio grade stuff. So this is a Shure SM7B dynamic microphone. It is not a condenser mic, it is not powered. It is being uplifted by what's called a cloud lifter, which is a microphone activator for non-condenser mics or dynamic microphones, going into my Focusrite Scarlett Solo, which is connected via USB-C to the system. So the reason why I'm telling you all that is so if you're looking at this from a streaming standpoint of is this keyboard going to annoy my viewers, then obviously with the clicky keyboard you want to see how much this can be picked up. Clicky is probably the most annoying to stream with. Now in terms of the microphone placement, it is sitting forward of the keyboard, closer to me, with the keyboard more underneath and behind the microphone, which is how you would want the setup to be anyway. You don't want the mic at a distance and closer to the keyboard because it'll pick up all the things. So when it comes to the app, and we'll do a typing test in a second here, it's pretty simple. So you've got your light sync, which I have it set to sort of like a tealy kind of a blue to match Nebula right now. And you can change different lighting effects, breathing, starlight, screen sampler. Screen sampler is kind of like the HDMI Philips Hue thing where it'll make the lighting match what's on the screen. All of these effects that do things are going to reduce your battery life. I use a fixed because that doesn't mess up your battery life nearly as much. So you've got your animations and stuff. What I like about this is although it is taking effect on the keyboard as I make these changes, you can also see what they're doing on the screen right there. So I just use the fixed preset with the color that I want. You've got gaming mode, which basically, as you can see, it highlights which keys it's going to disable. It disables the menu keys, like the start menu, the function buttons, all that sort of stuff. You can also turn it on and on by just hitting that button right there. And by setting the game button right there, what you do is you can turn on which keys it turns on and off by hitting that button, by setting that all up right here. Now you can, this is where you can do all your different assignments and all of your function keys. You can assign all these things to do different things. You can remap them. Pretty self-explanatory, not that surprising of a keyboard when it comes to those functions, but very standard, if you will. So when it comes to the typing test, I'm gonna go ahead right now and I am going to type. So as you can hear right now, you can't see it on the screen because I've got a different notepad up, but okay, so that was just typing. Now, very often, or not very often when you're streaming, are you sitting there quietly typing something like a message? Now that would be very annoying, but let's say you're talking right now and you're like, oh no, oh God, here he is, it's on the left, he's on the left. Oh man, he killed me, blah, oh, I'm Fortniting, I'm so Fortniting. Yay, Fortnite is the best. Oh, I'm moving fast, I'm strafing. And so as you can see, the clicky keyboard is loud. So if I even push it softly, now let's face it, none of us game that way. When you're gaming, you get into it and you start flailing on the keyboard, and that's what they're gonna hear. So if you're a live streamer, then you might wanna consider maybe getting one of the non-clicky keys. Now let's go and talk about something that I am not a fan of with this keyboard. I'm gonna set it down so I stop waving it around in your face. Probably its best feature is also its worst, and that being the light speed connectivity. I had to end up moving the dongle from the tower, which you can see is right next to the keyboard, to a hub that I have underneath the desk, to split the difference between the tower and my racing sim, which is right over there, literally on the left side of this table. Because when I'm on the racing sim, I need to be able to, control the keyboard and go into settings and launch apps and stuff like that. And I don't like doing any of the desktop stuff from VR because I am using an Oculus Rift S. I just slide my chair over there and use my chair as a table next to my racing sim. The problem is once the Oculus VR turns on and the controllers are active, the keyboard completely drops out. There is enough interference, and I have no idea what the frequency range of the controllers are. Maybe Phil, if he knows, can put an overlay here. If not, then he can just put, nope, I don't know. But the controllers completely step on the connectivity to the keyboard, but not the mouse. And considering they're both using Lightspeed, I find that very interesting because of the fact that they are using apparently the same technology and the same frequencies. But the extremely fast but short range meant that enough interference from just having the VR headset going and the controllers was enough to make it so that the keyboard would not work. Now it was easily fixable by, just like I said, having a USB hub under the desk over here on the left side, which I already had there anyway, because I'm using it to charge things like the keyboard and mouse when I want to plug in. I also am using it to connect, I don't know, something else down there, I can't remember what. Oh, no, my amp and my DAC and all that, and my Scarlett are going straight, I don't know. I put it there for some reason, I don't know. But since it's, like I said, between the desktop and the rig, it made it so that I was able to get a connection back. But that means if you wanted to say, if you had the TV hooked up like I do over here to a tower all the way over there, and you wanted to bring the keyboard and mouse over there so that you could use that as some sort of a home theater PC, then it'll work until anything that's even remotely more powerful that can bleed over into that frequency is going to step on it and make it no longer work. One of the requirements with the FCC in the United States is that things that emit radio frequency have to also accept interference. It's a really interesting law, but the FCC does require that things accept radio interference as much as emit it. I think it has something to do with pirate radio back in the day, and so it's some laws that exist now. So obviously, with it accepting interference means it stops working. Clearly that's not a problem if you're gonna plug it in. But if you're gonna plug it in, I don't know why you would get the G915 anyway. The G815 is much cheaper and a much better deal, and it's basically a wired version of this, although a little bit different. So when it comes to the G915, a lot of you asked about it, and I'm happy with it. It fits the needs I have. It's expensive though, it was $250. I've seen it go as cheap as $229 on sale. Unfortunately, when I bought mine, it was not on sale. So I did spend the $250 on this keyboard. Would I do it again? For this setup, yes. But would I buy it for my office back at the studio? No. Would I buy it for any other rig that's just sitting there stationary that you don't have the need to be able to move it around like I do, having to go over to the gaming rig and wanting to lay back in my lap and all that and move around the room? There are other better wireless keyboards if you can deal with the fact that there's going to be a slight amount of input lag, but if you're not doing any sort of competitive gaming or even any sort of extreme FPS, what I mean by that is people that are doing like crazy Counter-Strike and Fortnite, Twitch shooting type stuff, then you're probably never going to notice. I had a Logitech wireless keyboard bundle that I got for like 50 bucks back at my old house when I had this rig in my upstairs loft, if you guys remember that setup, that I used all around that room. It was like twice the size of this room at least, with no problems whatsoever, and the battery life lasted like 6 months with just regular AA's. They weren't even rechargeable. So in that aspect, this isn't worth it to that person. But I'm pretty superficial, and it specifically caught my attention because of its appearance, which made me go, ooh, that's pretty. And it meets my needs, and it probably won't meet yours. I hate to say it's not worth it, because obviously worth is subjective, but I can tell you right now, in this scenario, it was worth it to me. If you're someone that's like, man, I'm kind of on a budget, I would probably look elsewhere. And I would probably stick to wired keyboards if I were you, and then just maybe use some sort of a powered USB hub extension somewhere to get a longer range out of it if you want. So there you go. You guys asked about my opinion with the G915. Good keyboard. Probably would have been worth it at $100 less than it is, but at 250 bucks, Logitech is definitely charging a premium for this. So sound off in the comments below on how you guys feel about whether or not this keyboard is worth it to you. Do you have the keyboard? And if you do, and you think I missed a very important function or problem with this keyboard, then sound off in the comments below. I'm not kidding. I don't normally do peripheral reviews, but enough people asked about this where I went, okay, I've got to do this review. People are asking about it. I paid for it. So I can tell you from the consumer perspective, it was worth it to me, but that's a big fat asterisk. Asterisk? Asterisk? Asterisk. It's a big fat question mark whether or not it's worth it to you. So, guys, thanks for watching today's video. If you have any other suggestions what we can do during this downtime, and I'll do more filming from this space because it's really comfortable in here. It's better shooting space, I think, than the studio right now. Hey, Phil, we're gonna move out of the studio. He's actually watching this right now for the first time while editing this footage because we are social distancing ourselves. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, we'll see you in the next one. Well, Phil, I think we determined I talk better when I'm in my own space, huh?